Welcome back, and joining us now is Tony Arterburn of Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. And Tony has set up davidknight.gold. That'll take you to Tony and let him know that you came through us. And you should probably be doing what the central banks are doing. 20% of central banks have increased their domestic storage, or they've diversified overseas locations over the past year. And they are looking to load up more for some reason. I can't imagine why. Tony, can you?
Well, let's start with weaponization of the dollar, catastrophic loss of credibility on behalf of the United States, not only foreign policy, but fiscal policy, pretty much everything. I mean, gold's very attractive in the fact that it can't be printed infinitely like the dollar. And the central banks around the world, David, they followed us after 1971 into the Keynesian experiment of fiat. And the average lifespan of a currency not backed by anything is 26 years. That's just history shows us that. So we've doubled that, but the world followed suit. And now we're in a fiat bubble. Like, it's the biggest financial bubble of all time. Global debt's 350 trillion. And it's, human psychology never really ceases to amaze you. You can look at the pullback in gold, and you can look at the current markets, and it's not rational. I mean, if you look at where gold was before the war started, and now that the war is supposedly coming to an end, I mean, if you really believe that, but, and you'll get a lot of these people right now that are hawkish on Fed rates and very short-term bearish on gold. And I'm not really a gold bull. I just look at the trends, and I look at the history behind this. And so I see, long-term, the central banks know something. And they know something that the markets aren't really responding to right now. I'd follow where the money actually goes. Wasn't it the bank robber Babyface Nelson? They asked him why he robbed banks. He said, 'cause that's where the money is.
Well, they're putting their money onto gold. 74% of central banks responding to a survey question said that they're going to see moderate or significantly lower U.S. dollar holdings within global reserves over the next 5 years. They said the share of other currencies, like the EU or the Chinese currency, will stay the same, while they are going to increase their gold holdings. So 74% of them are going to increase their gold holdings while they decrease their dollar holdings. Maybe that is some advice that we should take. And then the other part of it is that 20% of them said, well, I want to make sure that I've got it close to home. I want to know where it is in a secure location. I don't want to trust it to New York or London exchanges. I want it right here in our country. So that's it. Physical and close to you.
That's another thing that's changing. The world economic monetary order is changing faster and more rapidly. I think the changes are more stark than they were in 1944 with Bretton Woods, David. I mean, that trend where the dollar was the world's reserve currency was backed by gold, $35 an ounce. Again, I mentioned, Nixon taking us off the standard in 71, but central banks now hold 36,000 tons of gold. And that's the highest central bank holding since 1940. We're in at 44. And so we're in the new economic world order, or at least the beginning of that. And, we're talking about it. It soon will be self-evident.
Yeah.
But it's funny, as I was doing some research this morning, and one thing that's not factored in to the supposed numbers and what the value of gold is per dollar is they say that gold has been in a bear market or it's a bull market. The public's not involved in this. The vast majority of people, especially in the West, David, because we've had somewhat stable fiat currencies, don't truly understand what gold's function is and what its historic function has been in the Industrial Revolution, or even just modern trading economy since wooden ships, since international commerce. So the public hasn't gotten involved yet. I know that we talk about it in our audience, and in this realm of alternative media and just looking outside the system, some of the nonconformists and people that are liberty-minded and others. Yes, we understand that, but it's a fraction of the population, small percentage.
Yeah. Americans are basically, we've been weaned onto paper and plastic. It's like when you go to the grocery store, right? I need to get some cash. You want paper or plastic? They say we hold all the cards, we hold all the credit cards. And so when you look at this in India, for example, I mean, they are hardcore about collecting gold or silver. I mean, that's the only thing they want. What little money they've got, they want to put it in something that's real. We are being set up for a big fall, and we have put our trust in things that are not going to hold their value. And when you look at the gold situation with central banks, of course, that was a key thing that got us to where we are right now. And it is a much, much higher price that we've seen compared to a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever. And yet we have a record number of central banks expect their gold reserves to increase in the next 12 months. So in the next 12 months, they're going to be buying into this heavier than they did prior to that. This is a new record.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that again. The central banks are buying physical gold bullion, and they want to store it themselves or have counterparties that they trust. And that's the issue. Trust is diminishing.
Mm-hmm.
The system that was set up, and we're watching it in this fourth turning, we're watching it implode on itself. Some of it's probably on purpose, some of it's arrogance. But the American dominated hegemonic monetary order is coming to an end. And we see the waning power of the American empire here in this weird memorandum of understanding, all this stuff that's going. I'm glad that there's supposedly peace. I mean, don't get me wrong, if whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something fundamentally wrong with American power and the projection of power. The rest of the world knows that, and you can see the infrastructure being built to trade in the new currency. The new currency, the world is agreeing based on numbers. I mean, this isn't something it's something I discovered. It's this, the math is telling me that the world is using gold is the new reserve currency, and the dollar's being supplanted, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you look at this, it was a massive run-up of the central banks, and now they're going to do it again. But this is something that's even more interesting. You've talked in the past about urban mining, people going in and selling their jewelry and things like that. Here we have luxury Swiss watches, a report from Reuters talking about how people are melting down their mega constellations. Said, well, this is something that you would have somebody like George Clooney flash at the Oscars or something, right? They get these luxury watches, especially the bands. That's where a lot of the gold is. And there's this one guy who is in the UK, and he just melted down an 18-karat late 1970s Constellation watch, an Omega Constellation, in excellent condition. He said he looked at the auction value of it versus the value of the scrap metal, even after it's come off of the highs at the beginning of the year. And he said it just makes sense to melt this thing down. And so you got some of these people who are watch aficionados, and they are freaking out over this. So you can't get all these things down just for the scrap metal. But he says if you look at what this would make at an auction, he said that the gold in it was worth about 5,700 pounds, I should say. But the auction value was only about 4,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. And the guy has an auction thing as well as a gold store. So he knows what the value of both of these things are. That's why he's melting these watches down.
Yeah, that's what you'll find a lot with the metals price increasing over time. Really, the jewelry price is having a hard time catching up on a lot of items, unless it's sought after. Like if you look at the secondary jewelry market, just watches, or rings, or bracelets, and other things, the gold price is usually the right way to go. That's why, my business, we pay high on that kind of stuff. I mean, way over things like pawn shops. So if you come to me and you bring me a gold chain, it's probably the best deal you're going to get in 3 or 4 counties. It's a good deal because that's what we do. I mean, a lot of the times when I turn in bullion, I'll also turn in the jewelry and other things to melt. We buy a lot of the old watches because you're right. I mean, if you look at you take the price of what the meltable gold, whether it's the backing of the band or any of the pieces in there, and you add that up against what you could retail it for, the gold's going to win out most of the time on these older things. And I like the old Rolexes. The Rolexes have such an inherent value. A lot of times they'll surpass the The gold price a lot of times is for the collector value. Rolex does a pretty good job in the pre-owned deal for keeping its value, but most of the time the jewelry wins out as far as melting. And I've mentioned the urban gold mining. There's money out there to be made. I mean, if you can hit thrift stores and garage sales and estate sales and other things, if you understand what you're looking for, looking for the maker's marks on things, like most of the jewelry will tell you it's 14K, 10K. Then you just have to figure out, is it magnetic? I mean, is it a fake? Is it costume jewelry? There's a few other steps you'd have to do, but I think as the price continues and the economy, I mean, I don't think we've fully seen the impact of this disastrous decision with Iran. But if the economy continues to falter and people are looking for extra money, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
And I think we will see more urban gold mining. That's a phrase I heard 10 years ago, and I've seen more and more of it. That there will be more people looking for things and finding places like me to trade in for cash.
Yeah. Yeah. In this Reuters report, they talked to a guy who is a horological historian, a watch historian, in other words. I guess he's a horology expert, and it is horrifying him what he's seeing here. He says, I find it very sad we're seeing history melt down. Well, what we're seeing is a financial system that is in meltdown. So people are turning to gold. It's just the watches are this thing that we have constructed, and it might be finely tuned like the Federal Reserve, but the reality is the reality. And so they're saying pretty much everybody except for Rolex, they're kind of underwater on these things, but the Rolexes, they tightly control the number of them. I didn't realize this. They say there's a waiting list that can be years long to get a Rolex.
It's so funny. I was coming back from London when I went over to interview David Icke, and there was a Rolex place inside the London airport. So I walked in and I saw a watch, and I was like, I want to look at that. And they had no watches. Like, they only had the watches in the display. And I looked up, and it's like open, and there's Rolex. And so I said, oh, now explain to me what that means. He's like, well, but just know there's no inventory.
Yeah.
So then again, I went to Las Vegas for the Bitcoin conference, walked in a Rolex place and said, do you have any watches in stock? No, we do not. So you have people there, but it's really bizarre. So they do control. The pre-owned Rolex market is still very strong. So yeah, it's not, the other gold watches tend to lose value faster. The gold will outpace the jewelry value. That is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what they're doing with the Rolex, they say in this Reuters article, they say the waiting lists are astronomical. You're talking for some models 2 to 8 years. Isn't that amazing?
That's ridiculous. And that's something like the De Beers family did this with diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had these just giant vaults full of diamonds, and then they ran, the marketing campaign, which was so rare, and then, a diamond is a girl's best friend, all the stuff that they ran, if you're going to have for a wedding ring. And this is something they did a long time ago. But yeah, they were able to create false scarcity. So Rolex, my hat's off to them. They have created some false scarcity. It's not true that there's not enough Rolexes. They do make you wait, though.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, will backfire in a lot of ways, especially as the economy tightens up. And one of the things that we mentioned about gold that is so interesting, people that are able to liquidate those watches or liquidate that jewelry, it speaks to gold's liquidity. It's the most liquid commodity out there. Like, because there's so many places that you can trade that gold in, David, especially if
you heat it up.
Especially if you heat it up, yeah. And if you've got in bullion form, especially, it's verifiable. To me, that is the superior money. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's so important for people to understand. Like, if you're like, because the way I look at it, if I've got a stack of hundreds, or if I've got a 1 ounce Krugerrand, I'm taking the Krugerrand. I'm taking the 1 ounce gold. I know what that is, and I know that I can travel with that. I know that it's accepted all around the world. It's universal. The spot price is universal. So there's a lot of great aspects to having physical gold that is outside of counterparty risk. And all these things, whether it's old watches or jewelry or whatever, that is money. And
Mm-hmm.
it and
Mm-hmm.
and because of the nature of gold and how it's traded and the finite nature of it, it retains that value. And so you can argue about short-term stuff about pricing, but the mathematics are there. I mean, you can either look at like the projections of what Warsh is going to do with keeping rates the same, or you can look at the fundamentals and say, well, I don't believe the dollar is going to be as strong or it's going to retain as much purchasing power 24 months from now. And you'd be
Mm-hmm.
right. You'd
Mm-hmm.
just be right because of mathematics. I mean, it doesn't make you a genius, but gold tends to, and it does, it retains that purchasing power. And that's why I like and prefer the liquidity of gold over the liquidity of cash.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I never was aware of that with these Rolex watches. I've only seen that with one other thing like that, and that was also out of Europe. And it was I had some friends who were British, and where I worked at TI, and they always had their eye on a Morris sports car. And it's this company. They still made the cars. They look like a 1930s sports car. They got the running boards on them and all that kind of stuff. Still make it by hand using a wood frame and all the rest of the stuff. So they got very limited production, and that has created a mania around getting these things. I guess just like Rolex or something. So yeah, there's those collectible value things that are luxury items that people get on, but the true value of it is really in the gold that's there. And everybody talked about the fact that we just had this first Federal Reserve meeting with Kevin Warsh, and they didn't lower interest rates, but they thought they were going to raise them. And by keeping them the same, they looked at that and they kind of scratched their head. But the reality is, like I was talking to Gerald Slinty yesterday, everybody focuses on the interest rates and whether they're raised or lowered. But the reality is that the money supply has been growing by leaps and bounds. And you and I have talked about that as well. You mentioned that about how much of the dollars that we have had just recently been created. This is at a 49-month high, the money supply growth. And so this is an article from Mises, and this is really the surreptitious inflation that's there. Nobody pays attention to this except for some obscure economic journals, essentially. And yet it's headline news about the inflation stuff. They said the 6th month in a row of accelerating growth in the printing of money, rising to the largest growth rate in 49 months. The political pressure is moving towards easing monetary conditions. Again, they're doing quantitative easing. They're doing it under the radar, and they're doing it at a very, very high rate. April's year-over-year growth in the money supply was at 7%. That's up from March's year-over-year increase of 6.9%. April's increase is also a big change from April 2025, when the year-over-year growth rate was only 2%, 1.8%. Monetary growth has now been positive for 21 months in a row. So when they're out there printing money, this is one of the reasons why we're also seeing record intention of central banks to acquire gold and why they're dumping U.S. cash.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the expectations of Warsh was always to lower rates. And then we got into this war. He became confirmed as Fed chair, and the numbers are alarming. If you look at the amount of currency that's been created, and of course the inflation that's caused by the rise in energy prices, it really is sending out alarm bells. And so you look at the European Central Bank raised rates by 25 basis points. The Bank of England had a similar meeting, and they decided to keep rates the same or look for a rate hike. And the reason they're doing this is because we still haven't felt the impact of everything that's gone on in the last 100 days. Not really. But it will hit us eventually. And that those rising prices, because it takes a while to get down the supply chain, and all the different things and the cost increases. And this is very intricate. If you always pointed out the invisible hand, the things that even create the eye pencil, like all the things that go into making something, and all of those prices increase. We still haven't felt that impact. So Warsh is not in a good position. I mean, you might be Fed chair, but it's not a place that you want to be in the next any foreseeable future. It's a bad place. I do think that my bet, and I think any of the rational players here looking at the markets understand that they will have to cut rates. They will have to do quantitative easing. This is just a fact. You
Mm-hmm.
look at all the bubble that's in AI, David, the bubble that's in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all of that. Gold is a sideshow right now for that because there's the liquidity, and oil is a sideshow for all that. The stock market is so integral to the system, that the casino system that the oligarchs set up at this time. They're going to have to prop it up. I mean, to admit failure and to watch that thing collapse in and on itself, and it's not built on anything. So we have a real problem with increasing prices, lack of liquidity, and then the stock market being overblown with AI and the tech bubble that's built into that. I mean, the numbers in gold and Bitcoin and other things, they're not true numbers. So silver's not a true number right now because a lot of, they're chasing the fastest horse in the race, whatever that's AI and all the stuff that goes along with that. Well, what if it's overblown? What if there's no value there? What if those companies aren't what you think they are? And then you tie in the loss of purchasing power and the inflation and the expansion of the money supply. We got a real recipe for disaster. They will have to go back and do something about this, whether they're hawkish now. I mean, that's so short-term thinking. It's all about the math, David. Math doesn't care about your politics or your ideology. The math doesn't give us the room here like it did in 1980.
That's right.
We're just way
and you go
past
back
that.
and look at what Volcker do. He raised interest rates up to 20%. We talked about this yesterday. Warsh doesn't have the ability to do that. You're going to take interest rates up to 20% when you've got a $40 trillion deficit? Trump wouldn't be able to make the interest payments on that. They've already got a situation where the interest payments are getting close to what the military budget is. So that's one of the reasons why he's such a hawk in terms of saying you can't raise the interest rates. They're not going to do any significant change of that because it would come close to bankrupting the government.
That's right.
Yeah. I got a question here from Radis Bro. Thank you very much for the tip. I appreciate that. He said, have you guys seen the new U.S. Mint Gold and Silver Liberty Bells? People are saying is a reevaluation. All I see is those coins the gold dealers on Fox use to scam people. They charge an inflated price for that stuff just to get people to understand what's going on. They sell them coins and then they add a kind of a collectible premium to it to make sure that you don't get your money's worth out of the gold and silver. Your comment, Tony?
Well, yeah, I'm not familiar with those coins. I do see a lot of, anytime you see collectibles, if it's bullion, just be very careful and know what the spot price is versus the weight. Okay. Like if you're dealing with me, I can tell you what the spot price is. I can show you what the premiums are. If you're buying bullion, just be careful not to buy collectible bullion. That's not a good idea. And if you're going to buy collectible coins, if you're going to buy pre-1933 gold or something from the U.S., give us a call first and ask me if it's a good deal. I mean, honestly, you don't have to buy from me. If you can get through the text, just text our team, and I'll tell you if it's something that's reasonable. But know what you're doing. Get closer to the spot price versus the weight. That's how the rest of the world buys gold. Only the United States, with the mass retirement funds and the demographic targeting that these gold companies have done. And Tucker Carlson did a great expose on that. They are within the letter of the law, but that doesn't make it right. They took advantage of people's knowledge. And I've had people walk in this door here in Texas. I had a lady bring in her father, and he had his whole, life savings sunk in one of these gold companies. And they showed me the numbers, and I looked at the ounces. I was, well, they put them in collectibles, and it's not necessarily, outside the letter of the law.
Yeah.
They followed the law, but that's not right.
Yeah.
And, somebody made a windfall from it, and they do that infinitum as many times as they can. We don't do that.
Yeah. So you can pay too much for your gold, whether you get it in some of these Fox News places, or whether you go out and buy a Rolex, you can still pay too much for your gold.
Way too much.
Or actually, you get a discount if you get a used Rolex, perhaps, if you shop wisely. Guard Goldsmith says, well, if I need a watch, but I'm told to wait, how do I handle the countdown? What if a watch repair guy tells me it'll take 2 hours? How can I measure that without my watch?
Yeah, I found it so pretentious. I bought a a 1969 Rolex. This is one I've got on. I had it rebuilt, and so I bought it for next to nothing, and then ended up having it as a Rolex guy in Texas that works on me as a watch guy. He's very meticulous, been doing it for years. So that's the way I bought my watch. I don't know how it's so outside of my thinking. I'm not going to wait in for anything like that. But Gard has a great point. Hey, if you're going to do a count, how do you do a countdown without your watch?
That reminds me of the joke from that Ronald Reagan told about the Soviet Union. He said the guy goes in, he wants to buy a car, and they said, "Okay, we'll sell you the car, but we can't deliver it for 15 years, and we'll give it to you such and such a date." And he says, "Morning or afternoon?" And he goes, "It's 15 years from now. What do you care?" And he goes, "Well, because the washing machine's coming in the morning."
That's pretty good.
Well, that's what happens when the government manages production. I wish that Donald Trump understood that. He doesn't.
Oh, it's reminds me of the other Reagan joke about the commissar who comes out to the potato farm, and he asks the potato farmers, "Is the potato crop is it sufficient this year?" He says, "Yes, comrade, it is." He goes, "How many potatoes do you have?" And the farmer says, "Well, we have so many potatoes we could stack them to the sky, would reach God, it would reach heaven." And the commissar says, "This is the Soviet Union. There is no God." And he says, "Well, that's good news because there's no potatoes either."
We're talking about potatoes in the sky. It makes me think of this latest Pentagon stuff. They're saying, "Yeah, we got glowing orbs, and we've got this, and we got that," and even one of these accounts is looks like a potato up there. And I said, "Well, are they sure it's not Sputnik?" That's
Sputnik. That's good. That's
good.
It's
that's your government for you. You can't count on anything that they have to tell you. Well, there was also an article, Tony. When you talk about inflation, this is the Washington Post saying, "So how much more are you spending on gas, and what groceries could you have bought with this?" Again, they're going to try to drive home, what Trump has done to the economy, and it should be driven home as well. But one of the things they said was, we could get a good breakfast for what your extra amount you're paying. They looked at the average price. They said, of course, the price of gas varies so much from state to state because of state taxes. And that's been one of the really dishonest things I've seen the Trump apologists out there talking about. They say, well, let's just talk about California. Look at how expensive gas is out there because of taxes. And it's like, well, that's not the point. Gas has gone up in California. Even with all the taxes. Yes, they're the most expensive, but it's gone up everywhere because of what Trump has done. So they're looking at this and looking at the average price of gas and what people typically consume on average. And they come up with an extra $41.15 over the last month. So they said, you could have had a really good breakfast with that. Yeah. If I'm eating at home, I think I'd have more food than I could eat for $41.15. Or the fixings of a summer picnic. And I guess the bottom line is war is no picnic. That's what the takeaway is from all this stuff. But so what do you think is going to happen with all this stuff? I'm looking at, Gerald Slinty and I were talking about this yesterday. I think that this deal is going to be sabotaged by Israel. Trump is getting all kinds of incoming fire from all of the Zionist media. They've all trained their guns on him. I think he's going to be more than happy to just throw in the towel somewhere around the 60-day time thing and say, it didn't work. We're going to start this all up again.
The origin of even the Trump MAGA stuff is the greatest grift of all time.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about if you recall in 2016, David, leading up to the election, it was the National Review. They put out an emergency issue of the National Review, very neocon, all that stuff. I mean, the tradition, the neocon Republican rag that it was, kind of like the Weekly Standard. But the National Review put out this issue. It had 22 commentators who were vehemently opposed to Trump. All of those people are now pro-Trump.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the script is completely flipped. And he can't please them, no matter how much he turns on his own base, no matter how much he turns on, all the promises that were made and implied and all the things, but he can run away from it all he wants. But that's who really is in control, at least in the moment, of this political apparatus. So nothing changed. That's one of the great betrayals of my lifetime, is to see America first and nationalism the good kind of nationalism. I mean, traditionalism, the
Yeah.
Pat Buchanan, Russell Kirk kind of conservatism.
Oh, they're bragging about how they canceled Pat Buchanan,
Yeah.
the Zionist czar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
they canceled them.
if you say we need to stop doing this foreign aid because we don't have any money and we're borrowing the money that we're then giving away to people, this doesn't make any sense. You say that, you are anti-Semitic.
I remember,
yeah.
back in the early 90s with the Gulf War, Buchanan, this was a different America, but, so this is the good news. I mean, the different America back in the early 90s, at the beginning of the Gulf War, Buchanan on the McLaughlin Group said that, the only people that want Desert Storm were the, military contractors in their amen corner at AIPAC. And he got labeled like insane anti-Semitic for that, right? For just stating the obvious that comes out now, and everybody's like, yeah, that's exactly right. The danger now is that all that veneer is off. We see the inner workings, like, the takedown of somebody like Thomas Massey, the 30 something $30 million. That's probably just the tip of the iceberg. I don't think the true money, because of super PACs and other things, David, you probably won't know or what kind of deals were done with networks and marketing and all that stuff for media. So we don't know how much was actually spent on Massey, but a lot. And I think
they're bragging about it. They won a trophy for what they did. They can't be quiet about it.
No, they can't. But it's peak control of whatever that's the high watermark. So the danger now is, what does this flailing thing do? Like, because they obviously exhausted their generational reach here in the United States. The younger generations are not going to be on board for Israel first and all the stuff that implies, like forever Middle Eastern wars and our involvement, and you can't make sense of why we're doing this. And that stuff's going away, especially even if you take out the fact that the United States can't afford this stuff anymore. And we've been shown as a paper tiger in a lot of these ways, with the Strait of Hormuz and other things. You take that out of the equation, you still have a generational problem. You can't convince people, because once their mind is, been expanded, and you understand that this foreign power, for its own self-interest, has used it's used faith leaders, if you want to call them that, whatever that means to you. We just, Christian
wolves
Zionism,
among the sheep,
right? The wolves among the Huckabees of the world, all these people, they've used that, and it's over leveraged. So now we're in a weird spot where you're going to see the defiance. And I was talking with the great Garth Goldsmith yesterday. We mentioned that about the upcoming prime minister, supposedly, that could be of Israel, and he's playing some of the clips. And it's the language is so disturbing. I'm like frothing at the mouth, talking about their enemy, Iran. Great nations don't do that. And I brought up John F. Kennedy, in 1963 at American University, height of the Cold War. Like, great, powerful nations don't talk about destroying other people, like Amalek and all this, apocalyptic language. That's not what great nations do. You can see a waning power by its language and its lexicon. Like, what words are you using? And like, Khrushchev took off his shoe and beat the podium at the UN and said, "We're going to bury you." Well, we buried him. It's like, you use that kind of language. It's the language of the weak.
Yeah.
But it's also the language of the dangerous. And so if you look at what Israel's back against the wall, they want to be able to control the whole region. They want a greater Israel project. It's very apocalyptic. But the more that gets exposed, the less chance they have of actually achieving it, which is a good thing. The more people understand this is dangerous, their rhetoric is dangerous, and you can look into things like the Samson option and other things that need to be examined. Did you really think that? Is that doctrine?
The hatred is just unhinged, absolutely. And when you look at what they're doing and what they're saying, they're just a flip side of the Islamic terrorists. The difference is that they're wealthier and better organized and got a lot more money from the United States, but their attitude toward other people is basically the same. If you look at what, and I'm going to be covering this later in the show, look at what came out of these some of this rape inquiry in the UK, and you look at the way the Muslims view other people. It's the way the Jews view other people as well, and what comes out of that kind of removal of other people's humanity. That is the essential thing, and the Jews should have understood that, right? They always complain about the fact that's what happened to them in Germany, in Nazi Germany. And yet that's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what the Islamicists do. And here we are stuck in the middle between them.
Yeah. So that quote would beware when you fight monsters, you don't become one.
That's right.
You become the monsters that you fight. And if you what's funny is I learned this from Dennis Prager of all people, listening to his radio show 20 some odd years ago. And he said something several times, and it always made sense to me. He's like, in order to do great evil, you have to first see yourself as a victim. Because he was talking about the Dolchschlags, the Germans after war, the stab in the back. They saw themselves as, that's what that means. Dolchschlags was the stab in the back of the German people by the banking elite and the establishment and all that stuff going in from World War One.
We just had Netanyahu say in response to this memorandum of understanding, he said, "No, we're going to continue this fight. This is my struggle." It's like, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Mein Kampf.
This is Mein Kampf. Just say that in German and we'll all understand where you're coming from and what you look like. Yeah, that's right. It truly is amazing. I've got a comment here, a follow-up from Radis Bro of those coins he was talking about. He said, here's an example. Thank you for the tip. I appreciate that. He said, here's an example. 1/2-ounce silver Liberty Bell for $750. So, I mean, what is the price of silver right now? I don't keep up with this stuff on regular. What is it, like
it's
$70
about
or $80?
$65, $66 an ounce, somewhere in there. Retail about 70 something. So 10 times, it's 20 times retail. Okay, good job. Stay away.
That's amazing.
Don't buy that.
That's amazing. Bob of Atlantis asks, he says, are goldbacks sort of like collectibles? I like them, but they aren't near spot.
They're not near spot. You've got the meltable value, and then you've got the certification value of it. You've got the passability as currency in it. So it actually has a built-in value to it. So like when you buy them retail, like if you buy them from us and then you go and trade them, it has a fixed gold back value, and you can use the website for that. So any business that takes gold backs, they're basically taking in, real-time currency at a stable value. That's one of the things I liked about it. Actually, Goldback came and met with me and explained it.
So you are paying a premium, but this is not something that is going to fluctuate like a collectible.
Not like a collectible. And because it's currency, it's made to trade that way. They've done a really good job, especially if you go to the Goldback website and use the app and use like the conversion table. It just stays steady from what I've seen. So it's not like up and down. It's not like you bought, a collectible coin that's graded a certain way, and then, you really decrease the amount of buyers then. Like that's the thing. Any type of coin that has any sort of like numismatic value, David, it may be very valuable, but you also have to have a buyer. It's like real estate. Real estate's worth whatever somebody will pay for it. And so buyers are limited. That's why, with gold or silver, do your best to stay in the realm of what the ounce to spot price is. And then, you're always going to have a little bit of premium on top of that in the real world for physical metals, but stay closer to that.
I just kind of think of it similar to, the fact that when you do a crypto exchange, you got fees there that are representing the processing fee of the miners that are there. And that happens every time you do an exchange. So that's not like a fee that you're paying each time you exchange these, but there is a built-in charge that is there for that overall infrastructure.
Right. Yeah. And I think Goldback is building the infrastructure. I mean, in 5 years, 10 years, I think this will be a lot more ubiquitous. I think a lot more companies and businesses will be taking gold back, and maybe even states officially. There may be I think there's going to be a lot of inroads that are going to be made from things like gold back. It's a novel idea.
Yeah. Guard has another comment here. He said, my family made a mistake getting rare gold coins thinking that they'd hedge against inflation. But in down times, the collectible facet complicates things, making them harder to sell at proper prices. Better to get the coins for the metal value. He says, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's the other part of it. You could, I'm sure that you could find some people who were manic in terms of collecting, let's say, Confederate money or some of the Revolutionary War Continentals. I imagine those are pretty valuable to collectors. But you got to find the collector.
That's right.
Yeah, because they don't have any intrinsic value of anything else that's there. Yeah. Well, anything else that you want to tell us is happening at Wise Wolf?
Oh, we're just still keeping the variety going. I'm back in Texas today. I was in Missouri last week. I'm all over the place. Just keeping my own personal supply chain. It's thankfully the price of diesel fell a little bit, so my truck's not so expensive to run back and forth between Texas and Missouri. But no, just steady as she goes. As always, we're just keeping everything going. We have the ability now to have people sign up as affiliates. You're interested in making a little bit of extra money, you can become your own franchisee of Wolfpack. I mean, you just share the link, and I can even show you how to get your own domain. That's another thing. If a .gold domain, folks, you should look into it. A lot of the names aren't taken. You can actually own a .gold, and I think that'll be worth something in the future. I own, because of my affiliates and businesses, I own a few. I mean, I own probably 10. But you could look at your own .gold, and I could show you how to put your own link there, and we're just free. Just reach out to us, and then you can make a little extra money. We pay quarterly, and so anybody you sign up or anything, and for Wolfpack, you can see it in real time. That's something that we're doing. You got to be patient with us. We're not exactly set up for it. My team will help you out, but yeah, we're doing that. So especially in these times, and 1%, and it's for the life of the membership too. So if you sign up, people, you're going to get paid on that. So as long as they're members, it's a good deal.
That's great. That's great. And of course, people can go to davidknight.gold. That's one that you were kind enough to set up for us at the beginning of this program. So yeah, it's very important. That's one of the things that we can do. There are things that we can do. We look at the politics. We need to understand where these people are headed, what their agenda is, and how that's going to affect our lives. When we talk about that when we come back, we've got people like Wang Jensen of NVIDIA, and we got people like Peter Thiel. They're drawing their plans for how they want to affect our lives, and basically they're telling us, you just need to get on board and do what we say. Well, if you want to try to get away from that, there's certain things that you can do. One of those is to try to get outside of their monetary system as much as possible. And you can do that with gold. So thank you so much. Appreciate that, Tony. And again, one of the things I think is so key that you do is the Wise Wolf program, where people can set up a budget. They can gradually accumulate and dollar cost average what they are acquiring and stacking, if you will, of silver and gold. That's a very valuable service. So thank you so much for that, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity, created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at davidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. davidknightshow.com.